Excavation and penetration hazard controls. Access, egress. Any excavation requiring personnel entry will be provided with safe means of access and egress every 25 feet, 6.2 meters of horizontal travel when the excavation is deeper than 1.2 meters. For big excavations, at least 2 access, egress points shall be provided at opposite points. Rescue situations shall be taken into account. Surface crossings of trenches will be avoided where possible. Where personnel are required to cross trenches, properly designed walkways or bridges will be provided with guardrails and kickboards. Portable ladders must properly be secured and extend at least 1 meter above the surface of the excavation or intermediate landing. Workers will not use the components of a shoring system as a means of entering or leaving an excavation. Where there is a risk that persons could fall from the edge or face, edge protection consisting of a full protection, or alternatively guard railing consisting of a top rail, mid rail and toe board must be provided. Persons will not enter an excavation while heavy equipment is in use or mechanical digging is taking place. Refer to confined space entry procedure and working at height procedure. Before declaring an excavation a confined space, the excavation shall be assessed based on risk, for example, depth, width, nearby structures, soil type, possible harmful atmosphere, etc. Barricades. Personnel will be protected from accidental falls into excavations. Excavations will be provided with hard barricade, clear signage and the details of the excavation owner, supervisor's name and contact details displayed. Barriers will also be a warning for vehicles or equipment being located too close to any excavation. Traffic management. Prior to commencement of excavations affecting roads or traffic movement, a documented traffic management plan will be prepared that includes, where necessary, traffic controller, barricades and any road closures. The traffic management plan will be approved by the construction manager or delegate and be made available at the work site at all times when work is carried out. Traffic management plans will be communicated at the start of the shift to all personnel affected. The excavation area will be isolated from access by vehicles not involved in the excavation work. Mobile equipment. A warning system will be used when mobile equipment is operated adjacent to the edge of an excavation if the operator does not have a clear and direct view of the edge of the excavation. The warning system will consist of barricades, hand or mechanical signals. If possible, the grade will be away from the excavation. Mobile plant, vehicles or any heavy loads must not approach closer than 1.5 meters from the edge of the excavation. The advice of a suitably experienced geotechnical professional will be sought if it is required to take mobile equipment towards the edge of an excavation. The distance requiring geotechnical advice will be equal or lesser than the depth of excavation. Surface water and drainage. In excavations, the safety of faces and fill often depends on the effectiveness of the control of surface and groundwater. Water may accumulate from a number of sources. High groundwater table seeping into the excavation. Stormwater drains nearby. Surface runoff after heavy rain. It is prohibited for personnel from entering excavations or trenches where water is accumulating unless adequate precautions have been taken to protect personnel against the hazard posed by the water accumulation. To control surface water, cut-off drains, constructed parallel, and a safe distance back from the face, will be used to collect water and discharge it clear of the working area. Drains may also be necessary in the excavation itself. Any inflow will be collected in sumps and pumped clear of the excavation. An alternative may be to construct a small berm, bund, dike 150 mm high around the excavation to prevent ingress of surface water. Subsurface drains, well pointing, or sump pumping will be installed to cut off, remove, or intercept groundwater and channel it away from the site if this is a hazard. Any inflow will be collected in sumps and pumped clear of the excavation. Where an excavation is likely to collect or retain water of such depth as to constitute a hazard to personnel in the vicinity, the excavation must be covered by suitable material such that personnel cannot fall through it, or be securely fenced off during times when workers are not present. Where pumping is being carried out to lower the groundwater level, subsidence of the adjacent structure may result. If such works are to be undertaken, expert advice have to be obtained. Positive isolation. Where reasonably practicable, underground utilities and services, including electrical cables, product lines, or sewers, within the limits of the excavation, will be isolated and/or protected. Temporary underground cables, piping may be installed with radio frequency identification, RFID, smart cable markers, but this will not be considered as the norm. All underground utilities to be exposed will be marked and protected against any damage. Harmful gases, vapors and odors. Where there is a potential for air contamination, as determined during the RA or JSA, all excavations, where entry is required must be tested by an authorized gas tester, using the correct type of detection equipment, which has a current calibration certificate. If contaminants are detected or low oxygen, the excavation will be considered a confined space and the procedures described in confined space entry procedure will be followed. The rate of testing will be increased in frequency, or become continuous, if welding, cutting, burning or use of asphyxiating gases, for example nitrogen, argon, etc., is used within the excavation. There is always the possibility of odors being present during excavation. If the source of odor or consequence of exposure to odor cause is unknown, the work will stop until the situation is assessed and determined safe to continue. Contaminated soil. If the soil or material being excavated appears contaminated, work will stop and an environmental coordinator will provide information relating to precautions to be taken and any disposal requirements. Flora and fauna. Where the risk assessment identifies any areas of flora and fauna sensitive areas, a visual inspection and assessment of the area will be conducted and a management plan will be developed in conjunction with relevant competent personnel. Inspections. A competent person will conduct inspections of excavations daily before work commences, to ensure that the PTW, necessary documents are in place and conducted. After events that could cause increased hazards, such as rain, earth tremor, dramatic change in weather, etc. When fissures, tension cracks, sloughing, underground cutting, water seepage, bulging at the bottom, or other similar conditions occur. When there is a change in the size, location, or placement of the spoil pile. When there is an indication of change or movement in adjacent structures, inspections of excavation works will be conducted to ensure the safety of personnel and to identify and mitigate developing hazards associated with the excavation activities. Inspections will look at the following areas: the fall or dislodgement of earth or rock, the placement of excavated materials, plant or other loads, possible instability of adjoining structure caused by the excavation, the existence of previous excavations, the presence of underground utilities or services, instability due to personnel or plant working adjacent to the excavation, the presence of inrush of water or other liquid, workers in unsupported excavations or trenches, loads too close to the edge, cracks near and parallel to the excavation, subsidence alongside a trench, plant and equipment working too close to the edge of an excavation, vibrations from nearby machinery, change in conditions. Any change in work conditions that are potentially hazardous to personnel will result in a reassessment of the work tasks and area. Changes in work conditions may result in the associated work permits being suspended or temporarily be withdrawn. Changes in work conditions can include, and are not limited to, activities being performed, for example, hot work, confined space entry, or work at height. Other facility activities being performed. Scope of work. Weather. An emergency situation at the facility.